Hello to the first few of you arriving. This is the Digital Humanities Q&A as part of the Postgrad Open Days. We'll be starting in just a moment, so just bear with us while a few more attendees join us, and then we'll get going with some of your questions. Thank you. Okay, I'll do a little introduction now, and then hopefully a few more people will join us before we begin. I'm Megan, I'll be your host today. I work in the Cambridge Admissions Office, joined today by various members of the Digital Humanities team, and we'll be working through a lot of pre-submitted questions, so thank you if you submitted a question in advance, as well as some of your live questions as well. So if you do have any questions throughout the session today, we have 30 minutes until 10:30, so please do use the Zoom Q&A button at the bottom and send in questions, and we'll try and work through those for you. This session is recorded, so you're welcome to come back and view it as part of the Postgrad Open Days until the 14th of November. Okay, so I'll hand over to Caroline, Anne and Heather to introduce themselves.
Okay, I'm Caroline Bassett. I'm the Director of Cambridge Digital Humanities, and I'm a member of the Faculty of English. I'm a professor at Cambridge, and I'm involved in building this course and will be involved in teaching it as well.
Hi, I'm Anne Alexander. I also work for Cambridge Digital Humanities, where I'm Director of the Learning Programme at the moment, and I'm a researcher by background. I also will be teaching on the MPhil.
Thank you for coming.
Hi everyone, I'm Heather, I'm the administrator. I won't be answering any questions, but I'm just here to say hello and listen.
Perfect, we'll dive straight in then. Do you encourage MPhil research proposals to propose research involving the development of small self-contained digital humanities projects, or would theoretical analyses of digital humanities, for example post-colonial, would both be encouraged?
Yes, we would encourage both routes. We want to be a very broad digital humanities master's programme. We want to accept students who are interested in theorising the digital, if you like, and working on digital methods. So both of those options are open for the research, for the dissertation proposals. And we run a portfolio as well as a dissertation option. So you can think about a proposal for your project or dissertation which included a complete digital humanities project or might be part of a larger project. So we're open to both.
Perfect. I hope that answered your question for that for yourself. We'll move on now. Do applicants have to master proficient computer skills to apply for this programme?
No. Once again, we are looking for humanities, media arts, sociological, historical, students from a range, right across the range of the humanities, arts and humanities subjects and the social sciences. And there's no prerequisite that says you must be able to code to come on this course. We are interested in people who can't do that, who want to think about becoming literate in the kinds of methods that the digital humanities use. So I don't know if Anne would like to add to that.
Yeah, just to emphasise what Caroline said, there's no prerequisite in terms of knowledge of particular programming languages at all. And we do offer quite a wide spectrum of opportunities for people to start experimenting with learning some of these in a research context. So although the course itself is not one that will involve intensive tuition in programming languages, there'll be an opportunity to experiment, to try out things. And as Caroline said as well, we very actively encourage people to consider developing their skills in terms of creating projects as part of the course. So it's very much aimed at people who have an appetite and an interest in engaging with digital humanities as a set of methods and concepts and applying those. But it's not one where we are expecting you to have reached a particular level or to come from a computer science background. It's a humanities focused course, if you like, in that respect.
Having said that, we welcome people who are self-coders or who are interested in code and who want to push those areas. So one of the things we're doing with this degree is making it open to people with no programming skills, but allowing people through the big dissertation projects and the portfolios to push the skills that they have. So one of the things that's very interesting about cross-disciplinary masters areas and master's subjects is that you can actually be working with people with very different skills, and some of their specialisms won't be yours. And that's a benefit, we think. So we expect that there will be people coming into this degree who do have some of those skills, but you don't need them. You absolutely don't need them to come in.
Continuing along the backgrounds line is our next question. What kind of training will students with GLAM, galleries, libraries, archives and museums backgrounds receive?
Two things to say to that, really. The first is this isn't a training degree in the vocational sense. We are not going to send you out with a diploma in museum studies or, you know, a vocational qualification. What we are looking at is the way in which digital humanities intersects with GLAM subject areas, archives, galleries, museums, questions of the digital image and how to handle it, thinking about digital publics and public forms of engagement. So you'll come out of the degree having been trained in thinking critically and be able to understand the kinds of issues that are affecting and impacting museums and galleries today, and also with an idea about how they're reformatting themselves in response to digital changes and perhaps also to social and cultural changes. I'm not sure that they're to be divided, actually. So the kind of questions we're all aware of at the moment around colonialism, post-colonialism, collections are questions that you have to also think about in terms of large databases, huge collections. So it's not a training course, but we fully expect actually that a large subset of the people who end up on this degree will come from or have engagements with GLAM areas. So I don't know if you want to add to that, Anne.
Well, yes, I mean, in terms of, as Caroline said, this is not something that is very practically focused on like collections management type skills or digital asset management. It's not that sort of degree. It's an academic degree, and it's focused on looking at digital humanities and the kind of intersection between you know, research in academic context and major institutions in the GLAM sector, or you know, kind of looking at it from that perspective. But to give you an example, for example, you know, one of the areas where members of our team have done a lot of work and where, you know, we will be integrating some of these aspects into options and core courses is around critical approaches to, for example, machine learning and computer vision, which is something that is of potentially a range of applications in a museum-based context, whether it's understanding, you know, the biases in using computer vision machine learning systems for searching and discovering images, for automatic labeling of images, and what are the implications of that. And it will be a critical take on it. So it's not just a question of how do you do this in a practical sense? It's also a question of why do the results come out like that? What can we learn from the way in which those results reflect biases and a discrimination that exists in society, for example? It's the interaction between the technology and the societal processes that produce it. So it connects up questions of theory, questions of practice, questions of application of technology.
And I think I'd add to that that's reflected in the people that will teach this degree as well. So our new lecturer, of whom we're very proud because we recruited him last week, for example, is an art historian looking at machine vision and machine learning. I'm a media studies person, Anne's a historian. So we have a big range of expertise as well. And that's what we're thinking about how to put those together in new ways.
Fantastic. The next question does kind of tie into this as well, being related to museums and galleries. Would the teaching mainly focus on interactive technology applications in offline exhibition halls, or online technologies such as digital preservation and virtual exhibitions?
I think that one of the things digital humanities is interesting is joining those things together. So it's not a museums course looking at interaction design in relation to GLAM institutions, nor is it a information systems management course looking only at AAAF, for example, or only at linked open data in big collections. We're interested in asking how do those things get put together to redesign what galleries are, if you like. So that's probably as specific as we can get at that at the moment, actually.
Perfect. This kind of ties into a question we've had live as well. Is can you provide some more details about the core and optional courses and what the course might look like coming to fruition this year?
Okay, we're rather like many master's level degrees. We have a couple of core courses, and we have some options that you take, and running across that you do a big dissertation or a big portfolio. The dissertation is a kind of 15 to 20,000 word project, and the portfolio is a shorter written piece plus some methods work or critical engagement work that might involve a project. So that's supplemented by a lecture series and the supervisions that support that learning. So that's the shape of the degree. We will teach 2 core courses, one of which is to some extent focused around collections and infrastructures, and the other one is focused around analytics, so working with data and the cultural and theoretical implications of that. The options modules will cover other obvious grounds to think about, so digital forms, literary cultures, distant reading, the sociology of the digital, and something on art, history, or visual culture. So that's about as specific as we can be about the options that will run next year. There's a basket of options that are put together. Which ones precisely run slightly depends on the numbers, so I don't think we can promise that right now. But those are the areas that we're looking at. So we will be offering a mix, if you like, of critical, sociological engagements with computational cultures on the one hand, and an engagement with methods and how-tos and changes in what learning is, if you like, because of the digital on the other. And we're actually, if you want to think about where we are in disciplinary terms, we come out of English, history, digital media studies, perhaps, library, digital studies and collections, and visual culture. That's the mix of our options. That's about, yeah, that sort of covers that, I hope.
Thank you very much. And we've had a couple of questions through about the application process, of course. Yep. So if we could talk about a couple of those. The first one is, how would you suggest a candidate best chooses their supervisor due to the interdisciplinary nature of the course?
Very simple answer to that is that we choose their supervisor. We would encourage you, one of the peculiarities maybe of Cambridge is that we ask you to put together a suggestion for your project as part of your application. So I would say, think about that. Think about what it is that you want to study. What's your research question? You can look at what people involved with CDH do, with the degree do, and you're welcome to suggest a supervisor you would like, but you don't have to name a supervisor as part of your application. And in many ways, what we're really interested in is your idea for a project. And that idea, we're also interested in that project being at least indicating you thought about whether you can do it. So we like projects with big ideas. We also like projects that you think might be viable or feasible. So it's that somewhere in between this kind of big imaginary project and this possible project. And the project that fires you up is what we're interested in hearing about, really. And leave the supervising decision kind of up to us.
Staying along the project line, for sample works that someone might submit for their project, what should these look like? Bachelor's essays, articles, a thesis?
I would say they're best, what you feel is your best piece of work. You know, the piece of work that, the piece of work that relates best to what you think you can do best and why you're interested in the degree. It's as simple as that. I would say, if you're a scientist, don't send us code. Send us a reason why you're interested in what you're doing with us. You know, there is a few questions about, think about when applying, remember this is an MPhil degree coming out of a School of Arts and Humanities. It's not a computer science degree. So we really welcome people that want to make the crossing, but I think you have to indicate that you have an interest in doing that. We'll be asking you to write essays amongst other things. we'll also be expecting you to deal with methods, but we're not expecting you to write code as an output.
What about once someone starts, if they decide they'd like to change their dissertation or their portfolio subject, is that something that's possible?
Yes, that's absolutely possible. And I think people do it in other degrees quite often as well. Having said that, that's what I mean about think about a project you really want to do. It will show. But if you arrive, you discover that you're really interested in something coming out, if you like, maybe in the first couple of weeks of the cultural analytics course, which will look at digital native material, and you want to switch, then assuming you can make a convincing case for your new topic, we will help you switch. And if necessary, we will switch your supervision to fit that as well. Something else to say about supervision really is that you'll have a lead supervisor, but we have a research software engineer support for the project. So we'll have group supervisions where that makes sense as well. So that's how we sort out the different levels of knowledge that people will have.
If we wanted to stay on supervisions, as they are a massive part of the teaching at Cambridge, would you be able to go into a little bit more detail about a supervision, what it would entail for the MPhil?
How it works, you have about, it's something like 8 hours of supervision. I hate naming the hours because it doesn't quite work out like that. I mean, it partly depends how you divide it, but that supervision would include some supervision for your term paper essays as well, but you'll get something like that. You have those discussions with a named supervisor supported where necessary, and that supervision is across the year. So we would expect you to be thinking about your supervision topic in the first term, but probably working on the core essays, working on the core courses and gathering your skills together. And then you would be starting to undertake a project or starting to write in the second term and then finishing up in the third. And that supervision would include reading parts of different work, helping people think about projects and structures, discussing the ethics of the methods you might be undertaking, thinking about how a critical methodology connects to a practical method is one of the really important things we want to do. And if you're doing a theoretical dissertation, then it involves suggesting reading, coming back on arguments, reading some parts of drafts, and generally helping you to produce the best piece of work that you're capable of. That's pretty much how it works.
We've had quite a few questions come into the live box whilst we've been talking, so we'll cover a few of these. What resources would you recommend to get an understanding of current digital humanities literature and developments within the field?
Anne might have an answer to that.
There is actually an open university course that I was one of the co-authors of part of, which I can put into the chat, which gives a good overview of some of the kind of core topics. This is not the same as what we're doing in the MPhil, but it gives you a sort of background to DH, and that was a co-produced piece between us and colleagues at Oxford and colleagues at Open University. I'll stick it in the chat. So that gives you some ideas. I mean, in terms of readings, there's quite a lot. I mean, one of the key journals in the field is Digital Humanities Quarterly, which you might want to look at, give you an idea again of how, you know, the sort of DH approach, if you like, to a sort of theory, methods, and a kind of critical approach to what we're doing. So again, I could put a link to that in the chat if that's helpful to people. I don't know if Caroline's got any other suggestions.
I think one of the things to do is I'm not going to list them, but I think one of the things to do is to look at the CDH website, because we will list them. One of the things we're putting together as part of the FAQ is a list of the really good edited collections that are coming out all the time that give you a really good introduction, both to digital humanities and to the debates the field is having for itself. So some of the really interesting work coming out now is around global digital humanities or environmental digital humanities. How do questions about the digital relate to our environmental crisis? How can you think about digital humanities as engaging with the global south and those kind of questions? So there's a lot of collections that are intersecting, if you like. I hate the term, but nonetheless, they're intersecting digital humanities with sets of queries that you'll find in other fields. So I think look at the collections from people like MIT, from Routledge. There's some just great edited collections coming up, and they're They're sometimes more accessible than what you would get from journals. So DH Quarterly is good, sometimes dense. So I think, yeah, read around and check back to the Cambridge Digital Humanities website, and we'll run a book list. We're planning it in the next month. I think we'll have something up there.
Perfect, thank you. And thank you for sharing the link in the chat, Anne. We have a couple of questions that I'm going to merge together. They're both about non-traditional applications, really. So one is from someone who's taken a break from academia for a couple of years. Would it be a detriment to their application if they had taken a break? And the other one is about deferrals, if it would be possible to defer once you've applied.
Taking a break, absolutely fine. In fact, one of the things I'm interested in personally is kind of non-traditional applications. I think it can be some of the most exciting applications might come from people that have worked in a museum for a year or have gone and, I was going to say travel around the world, but I take that back in these conditions, but just done something else, you know, so having a break is no problem at all. I think nonetheless, think about how you design your project and think yourself back towards, doing an MPhil. Deferral, I am honestly not sure, and I'm going to suggest that you email us and we will know that we'll find the answer to that out. Last year, I think deferral is possible. I'm slightly hesitant about saying it is.
Perfect, thank you very much. And then another one about pre-application. Are there any specific scholarships currently available for the Digital Humanities programme?
The only specific scholarship is the Gates Scholarship, which I believe has just closed. So this is slightly late for that. You can apply for the AHRC and, you get taken into the general competition. So they're the only specific scholarships for this year, at least. That would be the case, I suppose, for most master's programs. There are scholarships that it would be worth looking around for.
Yeah, there was going to be a big webinar on Friday, actually, which is all about funding. So if you do have any more questions, please do come along to that one, and we'll hopefully be able to answer about the wide range of funding and scholarships we have available at Cambridge. And then we have a couple more to work through. Will there be an interview, and when will applicants receive any admissions results?
It's very unlikely there'll be interviews. The process does involve reading your work. It does involve taking the application, the whole application very seriously. So the work you send is very important. Your proposal is very important. How you frame your application is very important. And we work with that and we score it and we get it read by, numbers of people. Most people will get notified. It's in the spring, it's kind of early spring, basically, when that process is over. I don't think there's not a single date for that. It slightly depends on the funding decisions for people who do get funding. So, but spring.
Could I just add something about people coming from non-humanities backgrounds? Because there was a question about that came through in the chat. It's just to emphasize that, one thing we're looking for is evidence that you can write at length, because that's how we're going to assess that's a major component of what the course will focus on. So you'll have to write essays, you have to write a dissertation, you may be able to, you can go down this portfolio route, but it's still quite a lot of writing. The writing does not have to be in a humanities discipline. However, I would say that we really encourage you to include in your application, if you're coming from, not from a humanities background or arts background, just an indication of why you think a DH course is right for you. What is it that attracts you to our subject? Because it is somewhere where that will be the framework within which you will deal with the the kind of concepts, the methods, the tools that we look at, so that even if there might be a crossover with, in terms of the say we're working with text mining, you could use that in a social sciences context, you could do it in a a natural language processing research context, but we would like you to show that you thought about why it is that the digital humanities route and the kinds of things that we are focusing on and the approaches that are outlined in our, in what we've put up in terms of our program are right for you. So essentially make a case for why you think this is the right degree for you to do. But it absolutely, we will be very happy to receive applications from people who've come from a computer science background, from a social sciences background, and who have perhaps taken time out from study and had experience in different sectors outside of academia.
If you look at where people in similar degrees apply from, it would include computer science, maths, music, history of art, media art, as well as the places you might expect, perhaps. This degree, you'll notice, is administrated in English. That does not mean it's an English degree. That's the administration of the degree. The degree is broad-ranging. It crosses the humanities. So it's supported by the School of Arts and Humanities. So it's worth saying that in case you go to the admissions thing and think, haha, but I'm a sociologist. It's an open interdisciplinary degree.
As we're approaching the last few minutes of the webinar now, there's one which kind of would round us off very nicely, actually. We don't have any past students that you could talk about, I suppose, for this one, but what career paths and roles would you envision students going on to after completing the MPhil?
I just want to reply to anonymous attendee and say, yes, we are looking at new feminist materialism. I run options in that and have written a book on it. So yes, to anonymous attendee. You do have to take IELTS. And then career paths. We think a number of students will move back into doctoral degrees of various kinds. We expect some of them will stay with digital humanities. There isn't a digital humanities doctoral program at Cambridge at the moment, but we think there will be. But there are those kind of programs across Europe and in the States and other places. We think some people will engage with DH for their master's year and then go back to a home discipline, having enriched what they're doing. So back into English or history of art or history, sociology. We think some people will go back out into GLAM areas. And also, I think, importantly, and I'm not sure, I think it's different from that, but I think people will find jobs in the media industries as broadly construed. So those kinds of industries dealing with the digital, with information, broadly speaking, I think lots of people will go there as well. So we think there's a lot of different destinations. And we certainly don't see it as only a training degree for a doctorate, although we also absolutely expect that many people will move on to that.
Can I add something very briefly on that? So this, just in terms of, something that might benefit you if you didn't take an academic path out of our degree and, you've gone through our program, is that actually there are a whole number of sectors where collaboration with academic researchers, academic institutions around digital projects, digital research actually is more and more common. For example, in the GLAM sector, they're increasing, particularly with large institutions, crossovers where academic researchers are working alongside people embedded in museums, libraries, archives, galleries. And so one of the things that you would get from our degree is an understanding of how research works in DH, a kind of overview of that sort of process that you could take back into a non-academic context and sit on the other side of the fence, if you like. You might be interacting with researchers and collaborating with them. So that's another way of thinking about the skills that you would gain in the course and how they could be used in a, not as simply as something that would take you on to doctoral study.
Thank you. There's another question about emailing us with questions later, and that's fine. There's an email on the CDH website. So by all means, email us with your questions. We're already fielding quite a number every week, and it's an interesting way to discuss with people what they want to know. Actually, the address is mphil@cdh.cam.ac.uk. So you can find it on the website though.
Perfect. Thank you for popping those in the chat. For the recording as well, we'll make sure they're in the paragraph underneath. So if you are watching the recording, you'll find the links we've discussed today just underneath the video. Unfortunately, we are just about to run out of time for this webinar. We've worked through so many questions today. So thank you both to those who pre-submitted questions and for those that submitted questions live. We hope we've managed to answer all of your queries about the Digital Humanities course. There's lots more information available on the virtual tour as part of the Postgrad Open Days, as well as on the cdh.cam.ac.uk website for you to explore as well. Thank you very much for attending today, and we hope to see you at the rest of the sessions this week. Thank you very much to Caroline and Heather as well. It's been a pleasure hosting you today, and I hope people enjoyed the session too. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.